David, this Thursday we'll get the first debate on the road towards the presidential election. The economy is something that I would imagine will come up, but just in the way that we've got the stock market at all-time highs and yet some frustration on Main Street, how would you describe how the economy fits into the political dynamics right now?
Look, this is where people vote. People vote with their wallets, and there's likely going to be a very stark comparison between what they see today and what they saw 4 years ago, and they'll vote in that sense. I don't have any idea what the questions will be during the debate, but as a portfolio manager, I've got a couple of questions that I need answers to, and at the top of that list is debts and deficits, which are running at unsustainable levels. Sometime soon, John, the juice, the interest on existing debt will be more than the defense budget. And the history isn't very kind to a fiscal setup like this. Biden wants to tax his way out, and Trump wants to grow his way out. I don't want sound bites. I want some real details on how they're going to achieve that.
You know, it's interesting. I think to your point about spending, longer-term deficits are a big worry in a lot of countries, including Canada. But the spending that we have seen is one thing that has arguably helped the U.S. economy be resilient and perhaps given people some capital to put to work in the stock market. Now, speaking of the stock market, there's plenty of evidence out there that when you have the positive start to the year, like what we saw for the S&P 500, and it is an election year, that's generally a good thing. But is there anything you're watching just in terms of the dynamics of this election, where we already are in the stock market, and what a stock market investor has to think about in this election cycle?
Well, those market axioms, those market almanac kind of things, it's an election year, so therefore the market should do good for the rest of the year. That's one of those things that works right up until I use it. So what I'm going to look for is how the numbers play out for the rest of the year. I expect a fair amount of sector gyrations as we get closer and closer to November. Depending on what the polls are showing, I think you're going to see stocks pushed around quite a bit. It's unlikely that the Fed will do anything, but I'm in the camp that the Fed needs to cut right now, and they're not likely to do that. They're likely to wait till after the election to do that, and I think that's for political reasons.
Yeah, it's a helpful point to make. So central bank policy, which we were already talking about extensively this morning because we had hotter than expected inflation numbers in Canada, how the Fed factors into this year in the election, something for consideration. Now, obviously, the Fed not making a pivot on rates yet is one of the considerations for the U.S. dollar. But I think a lot of people have been trying to figure out the roadmap ahead for the U.S. dollar, which coming into this year and the so-called DXY, which tracks the U.S. dollar versus a basket of currencies, we were just showing it there, had lost a lot of momentum coming into the year because everybody expected we were going to see all these interest rate cuts. And then as that belief faded, it did seem like investors were coming back to the U.S. currency. What are the drivers, in your opinion, of the greenback right now?
For me, it's less about the relative value of the dollar. There's a tremendous push around the world to de-dollarize. We've had enormous benefits in this country as the dollar being the reserve currency is what helps us control inflation to some extent. The world is rapidly moving away from us. BRICS is becoming very powerful. Not that long ago, it was just Brazil, Russia, India, China, and then South Africa. Now they've got several other countries, including Saudi Arabia, and Iran. There's not a lot of friends on that list, and increasingly we're seeing transactions made in non-dollar currency, including oil, and that's very unusual. We're using the dollar as a weapon in sanctions, and it's great to go after thugs like Putin. But on the other side of that, every world leader looks at that and says, well, they're going after Putin today, but if I get on the wrong side of the United States, someday it could be us.